A seismic shift is about to happen in the mid-range gaming space, and the Nova 5 is going to be the genesis of it all. What's up everyone, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and today we're talking about the brand new Nova 5X from SteelSeries. There are a lot of Nova headsets out there, so in this video we're going to talk about what makes the 5X special, why you should or shouldn't consider it, and how it compares to other Nova headsets in the lineup. Now SteelSeries did send this to me for review. Won't affect what I say about it, but I am grateful because I've had this for almost 2 weeks now, which is very helpful for testing purposes. I will have generic affiliate links in the description below. No special kickbacks or anything to do with this video from a monetary standpoint with SteelSeries, but using those generic affiliate links help support the channel. Otherwise, use whatever link and purchase it wherever you like, and I hope you found the video helpful either way. Now I'm going to stick to my usual video format, and I will have chapters to help you navigate, but there is a killer feature that is unique to this headset and what I think is going to change this whole mid-tier value space. So be sure to watch that part. It's going to be in the sound section. I just wanted to give you a heads up. There's a lot to look forward to with this one. So the Nova 5, what does it work on? Well, great question. If you get the Nova 5X, the answer is likely going to be everything. It pretty much has every connection option you'd want. It supports Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Nintendo Switch, mobile, thanks to Bluetooth. It also works natively on the Meta Quest 3 with the little USB adapter. Now, unlike the Nova 7, this does not have an analog connection, so if you want wireless plus the fallback of analog, then the Nova 7 is still going to be your pick. Otherwise, if you just want a wired connection, then look at the Nova 1 or 3. Now, the Nova 5 uses this USB transmitter, which has a little toggle on it, so if you buy the Xbox version, USB mode will work on PlayStation and PC, but obviously on Xbox, switch over to the Xbox mode. You can use this on the USB-C port of PlayStation, but depending on what version of the PS5, it will block the port. Now, one thing I liked doing personally on Xbox and PS5, because I wanted to free up the port, is I got this little USB A to C adapter. I'll have a link in the description below. It's super cheap. Now, this comes with the extension cable in the box. So for Xbox players, you'll basically plug this into the front of your Xbox or back, and then plug in this transmitter like that. I don't like seeing a wire hanging down in front of my console. I think it looks a little messy. Obviously, if I'm running under the back, that's one thing. But by using this little adapter, instead of dealing with the cable, I can just plug this in, and it's a much cleaner look at the front of my console, so that's something to keep in mind. Now, the Nova 5X has some special features to it, and I can tell you, I feel confident that the 5X is likely going to be the one you want, unless you have a preference on the headband color, because the 5X has the green headband, whereas the blue has the blue and black. However, if you're going to play on PC, you want the X, and that's because it's the only one that has a game to chat wheel on the right hand side. This chat mix dial also works on PC and Xbox, so you don't have, it's not like you're buying the Xbox to only get that feature for Xbox, or at least the X edition. The Nova 5P also works on PC, but it does not have game to chat mix on PC or PlayStation. The Nova 5 without the P or the X also does not support game to chat mix on PC, at least with a dedicated dial. So even though this doesn't present itself as two separate devices in Windows, if you install SteelSeries Sonar and you map it correctly, basically pick the 5X for both the gaming audio and chat, now this wheel becomes functional and it works extremely well. Now, the Nova 5 uses Bluetooth 5.3, which is great and that helps with battery life, but it does not support simultaneous Bluetooth. Some people are adamant about having that, and that's where your Nova 7 again comes in. At the $130 price range, it's going to compare more with the Razer Black Shark Hyperspeed or the Corsair headsets. Even the more expensive Corsair headsets don't have simultaneous Bluetooth. So if that's a deal breaker, then it is what it is, but I do want to point that out. Now, it does have quick switch. There's a dedicated button on the right ear cup to help you toggle from the 2.4 to the Bluetooth connection rather seamlessly. It will actively maintain a Bluetooth connection to your phone. You can just only listen to one audio stream at once. I say that because if you're playing a video game or listening to music on the computer, and then you get a phone call on your phone, you can just tap the quick switch button, switch over to Bluetooth, and it will take the call, and then you can press it again to switch back. On the note of wireless, I have my test I like to do called the toilet test, because let's face it, we're all human, and that's probably a big reason why we want wireless. Not only is it convenient if you have cats, but if you like to ever leave the room and still wear your headset, range is also important. You do want range stability in the same room, and this is absolutely incredible there. All of the Nova headsets in general have a really reliable wireless connection, more than pretty much any other brand that I've used. But the difference on range is where it can be make or break for some. This passed the toilet test with flying colors. I got over 60 feet, even on the high bandwidth mode, which I'll talk about here soon. But the range is excellent. It actually had a better range than the Nova 7 did in the exact same test. I was able to go through 60 feet through about 2 walls. Now the Nova 5 is insanely light, under 300 grams thanks to a gratuitous use of plastic. There's no real metal construction here, however, it is still built well. Now I have the Nova 7 and the Nova 1 here because I want to show you a couple interesting similarities. So the Nova 7 and the Nova Pros have a metal headband. They're a little bit heavier in the 340 gram range, but they feel really nice, and they have this single yoke mount. Basically, you have the telescoping yoke here, and the mount that goes to the ear cup is that single point. Now, some people don't like this too much. They're a little apprehensive because the older SteelSeries headsets were known to have a fault issue right here where it would eventually snap after a few years of ownership. The newer ones were reinforced with metal, and just based off stuff that I've seen online, long-term reviews, because this has been out for a couple years, they've actually held up quite well. Now the difference is the way this fits on your head. The rotation and pivot isn't as large. I think that might have to do with the reinforcement. You do get full swivel, which is great. You can wear it around your neck comfortably. I'm starting with the 7 because I want to show you the difference here, but it's a good headset overall in terms of ergonomics and durability, weight, comfort. But the Nova 3, the Nova 1, the Nova 3, the 4, and the 5 all use a different yoke system. So instead of that single point, you have 2 mounting points, which is actually, in my opinion, a more durable long-term setup. This also helps keep the weight down because it's all plastic, so it feels a little bit lighter on your head. Now it too has full rotation, so again, you can wear it around your neck, and it also still has a telescoping yoke, so depending on your head size, you can adjust it here. The suspension head strap also pops out, so you can adjust it. You can see these 2 little marks right here. You can adjust to fine-tune the tension. This also does change the clamp force just a little bit, but clamp force is rather light. Now I am taking this part really seriously because it's never really been quantified to me on like a large scale database. So I'm building a database that measures the clamp force of every headset I own. I've kept them all for a reason. I'm up to about 90 headsets now. And this is on the lighter side at under 400 grams of clamp force. And when you compare it to something like the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 Gen 2, which is known for strong clamp force, that approaches 900 grams of pressure. I basically 3D printed a head with an integrated vertical scale that is down to 0.01 grams of accuracy. And it's a convoluted thing, but it is standardized now, and I'm going to slowly build that up. So this is a light clamp force, which is great for long-term comfort, people who wear glasses, etc. The Nova 5 uses sport weave athletic fabric just like the Nova 1, 3, and 4 and Nova 7. It's a very breathable pad. It's compliant, so it's pretty good for glasses as well. Frankly, it's one of the best stock pads you can use for extended gaming sessions. I really do like them a lot, and a lot of people haven't felt the need to switch them out. This is also a very durable material because it's using a sport fabric instead of fake leather or pleather. It's not gonna fade and start falling apart over a long period of time. So I do like the stock pad. Pad depth is okay, it's 20 millimeters deep. Not the deepest pad out there, frankly, but the width and height are excellent. They're looking at 45 millimeters of width. And let's see, I think we're about 55 millimeters of height. Now the Wicked Cushion Freeze pad has a negligible difference on sound. There's a slight reduction in bass, but they measure almost the same, which is excellent because you don't want the pads to hurt the sound or change it in a way that you don't like it anymore. The difference with the Wicked Cushion Freeze pad, the depth is nearly identical. You do get a few extra millimeters of depth with the freeze pad, so if you're concerned about your ears touching the baffle because that whole 20 millimeter depth thing I was talking about, this might be a good upgrade for you just to get that little extra wiggle room. Now the width is actually slightly more narrow. It's closer to 42 millimeters of width, but the height is a little bit taller as we get closer to 60 millimeters of height. So it's a comparable difference dimensionally for both width and height. It's just a tad deeper. They do add a little bit of weight to the headset, but I still find them both comfortable. So it really just comes down to preference. With Cushion Freeze, you can customize the pad design if you don't want to go with just black like this too. The Nova 5 also has the best battery life of the entire Nova lineup, and if you're on the 2.4 connection, they rate it at 45 hours, Bluetooth being 60. I got over 45 hours on a single charge using 2.4, so I think it just depends on how loud you listen to it or for how long of a period of time. It is a bit longer than the Nova 7, which is kind of nice. The Nova Pro system with the hot swappable batteries technically gives you infinite battery life if you keep switching it, But on a single charge, this is great, and it's comparable with some others in this price range. Obviously, being 45 to 60 hours on one charge, if the battery starts to deteriorate and after a couple years it's not holding as long as it used to, you should still be able to get at least 30 or 40 hours on one charge. So to me, it's good for long term as well. The controls of the Nova 5 and Nova 7 are some of my favorites of all time on a gaming headset, especially if you're on Xbox or PC, because of something so simple that everyone should do. And that's having a dedicated wheel for volume and a dedicated wheel for game to chat. Not only is it dedicated for game to chat, but it's a hard stop up and down so you know exactly where you are. There's a little detent, so when you're adjusting the game to chat mix, you'll feel that center point, which means the game audio is set at 50% and the other 50 is your chat to hear your friends, or at least they're both at 100%, if that makes sense. And as you fade towards game, it'll keep the game just as loud, but it'll start softening your chat mix, or if you want to go the opposite direction, the opposite happens. Now, that's beneficial if you're in a situation where the game is loud and your friends are soft-spoken. You can quickly adjust that. Otherwise, fade the other direction if they're being too loud and you want to hear important audio cues.
Now the microphone performance was improved as well, and this is comparable to the Nova 3, which uses a USB cord, so it's not so much that they upgraded the microphone from the older Nova headsets, it's just they updated the chip inside, which has a much higher bandwidth on the return to your computer, game console, whatever it may be. So by doing that, everything sounds more clear, and it's noticeably better than the older Nova headsets, which I'll talk to in a moment. But the downside of this model is it still does not have the best noise rejection. So if I type on a keyboard, it doesn't really block anything out. That could be an issue for some people, and as of the time of this review, there's no option on the settings for the app itself to improve noise rejection on console. For PC, you can use the Clearcast AI if you're using SteelSeries sonar, and that'll clean up all of the background noise. But on console, this is the background noise rejection you should expect, or at least the lack of noise rejection. So comparing the Nova 5 to the Nova 7 microphone, you can hear there's a clear downgrade here. It's the same microphone, so the tonality is similar, but it's much more compressed. You're losing a lot of detail, and it sounds more like a walkie-talkie effect. This is like this on all wireless Nova headsets aside from the 5. So it is a clear upgrade, at least going with the new one, even though it's not the latest and most expensive one. I like what they did at the chipset side. Now, as far as noise rejection goes, it's still poor. You can still hear me typing in the background even with all that compression and processing. The other thing I want to note is the Nova 5 microphone is not as sensitive as this. I had the gains maxed out on both of them. This is clearly louder, and the same thing applies for the Pro. So if you're soft-spoken, make sure that you boost your gain on the microphone as much as you can to help compensate and make sure your friends can hear you. Now I'm talking on the Razer Black Shark V2 Hyperspeed. The microphone is an upgrade here overall, but none of them are going to sound incredible. They still have kind of that shouty, nasally sound to it, but I do think that this microphone still has the edge, at least from sounding less processed than most options in this price range. It also has slightly better noise rejection, if that's important. So overall, it's a solid pick, but I did want to compare it to the Nova 5, which I think, again, is still a big upgrade from the older Nova stuff.
Now, the most exciting thing about the Nova 5, we can talk about how great the comfort, the battery life, the microphone improvements are, is the sound features for console players. Now, there are some benefits on PC as well, but this is game-changing. For $130, SteelSeries has introduced parametric EQ on a gaming headset. If you don't know what this means, it is a game changer. It's never really been done at an affordable level. The only other headset that's allowed you to save parametric EQ to the headset before was the Astro A50X, which is $380. So this is pretty incredible. It's a special chip, part of the way technology's been evolving. But at the time of this video, there are 112 game presets on the Nova 5 mobile app. So what you can do, I talked about the simultaneous connection to your phone. You can connect this to your Xbox, PlayStation, or PC, and while you're playing, let's say you're switching from Forza or Gran Turismo, and then you go and hop on to Call of Duty or Apex, well, you can quickly select that EQ profile, and it makes a drastic difference in sound quality for that specific game. Now, you don't have to do any of this. You can set it to flat, but being able to toggle game profiles that seamlessly with that level of power has never been done before, and it is extremely effective at increasing your value and making you as competitive as possible while also enjoying the game as much as possible as well. Now, some people are going to ask a critical question that I asked right away, and that's, can I make my own parametric EQ for console? And the answer is yes. This is my favorite part about it. If you are new to my channel, one, thank you for stopping by, but I've made custom EQs on a lot of videos before. I always try to extract the most out of your purchase, because if you like all the other features, but you're trying to fine tune the sound a little bit, parametric EQ is the way to go, and that's typically been reserved for just PC players, and console players are stuck with either no EQ or very limited features that don't always fully fix the problem. Not only can you toggle through them, but once you set your custom EQ on PC, so you still have to use SteelSeries GG engine, you don't have to use Sonar for this. Select the Nova 5, go into Add New, and you have a full 10-band parametric EQ. You can adjust everything. Now the decibel increase is like, +1, +1.5, +2. It's not as fine-tuned as some other parametric EQs options out there, but half a decibel is still very granular. So because of that, I've released 2 of my own custom EQs. Now you can create multiple custom profiles, click save, and then in the mobile app, it will immediately show up and you can toggle through your own presets. So if you make your own for each game, this is like game-changing stuff. So without further ado, this is my EQ that I made for my music tune. It helps address some of the shortcomings with the sound, in my opinion, to make it sound more clear and more resolving, less muddy. And you're taking this $130 headset into like $200 plus territory for overall sound quality. Now I do recommend experimenting with a lot of the game presets to see if you find one that you like more on the other. For example, the Fortnite and Valorant ones I wasn't a huge fan of, but the generic first-person shooter one I liked. I liked the Call of Duty ones. They did a good job there. Now, of course, I did make my own custom EQ for first-person shooters with the main focus on Call of Duty, Apex Legends. I did some testing with Valorant and Fortnite just to kind of see how well it, translated over. It did work with CS2 as well. So make your own, but these presets that I'm showing you can just unlock this whole world of potential that's never been done before. Now, when it comes to sound quality that takes my opinion out of it, I do use a measuring rig that shows you the frequency response. This database is free to everybody. I have a link in my description so you can shop the sound profiles of different headsets with different pads, even compare it to much more expensive headphones and IEMs. So the Nova 5X, very similar sound signature to the Nova 7 on the flat versus flat profile. It's not a drastic departure. The Nova 5 does have slightly more upper bass and more recessed mids. So it will sound a little bit thicker, a little bit muddier than Nova 7, but it does have more treble energy to help counter that. So depending on what you're listening to, you might like this sound profile more. On my custom EQ, I did kind of trim that fat off a little bit on the bass to just make it sound more clean and more detail. Upper treble overall is great. They actually reduced some of the sibilance on the high treble, like the 8,000 hertz area. So there's not as much of a spike as it used to be before. It's very easy to listen to out of the box. I just recommend EQing it to get a little bit more. As far as actual game performance goes, it's just been fantastic. The Nova 7 was one of my top picks overall for the money for gaming. This is $50 less MSRP and gives you more custom EQ options that saves to the headset for PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And because you can leverage parametric EQ on this, you can fine-tune the sound. You don't need to use SteelSeries Sonar, but then on PC that means you can still use Dolby Atmos, which is a really rare combination in case you were missing spatial audio before. I like the sound. It's not as resolving or detailed as something like the Maxwell or the PlayStation Pulse or even their more expensive Nova Pro lineup. Those have a little bit more detail. Even if you made the sound profile the exact same from a measurement and what you hear perspective, it seems to be more clear on the more expensive stuff. This isn't doing anything game-changing there, but overall it's very competitive for FPS. I found it to be just absolutely fine. For gaming, I just recommend EQ to get the most out of it. The bass is rather deep and impactful, so if you're concerned about immersion and that deeper rumble effect, you're definitely going to get that. And you can crank the treble to high noon if you want to make it sound as bright and sparkly as you want. Out of the box, it's not too forward. There is still a little bit of that shout that I've had with other Nova headsets, but no real fatigue issues with this one. It's very easy to listen to for a long time, which pairs well with the comfort. When you compare the Nova 5X to something like the Razer Black Shark Hyperspeed, to me this is kind of like a sleeper headset because it does do 10-band EQ, and because it's tuned so well out of the box, mild EQ will drastically improve this, and then you have a very comfortable headset that has a great mic. Where this is let down, it doesn't have as many features. There's no way to cut it at the exact same price. What you're getting is, I think, a little bit more full sound. The bass sounds just a little bit better. It's not so much it's more or less, but I like the overall sound characteristic more without EQ when you look at this. It doesn't have game to chat mix. It doesn't have simultaneous Bluetooth. The microphone is better, but for the price, you're losing quite a few features. And this really is close enough in sound quality that I still lean towards the Nova. If you don't care about all those extra features and you just want a little bit more immersive sound for like single story games, something comfortable, the Hyperspeed should still be on your list. There is still a defect with the firmware. If you switch to the Bluetooth with custom EQ enabled, it sucks out all the bass on Bluetooth, and listening to this on mobile apps or mobile phones kind of sucks right now. It still sounds like a tin can or walkie-talkie. This headset's been out for, I think, almost a year now. So at this point, the fact that it hasn't been fixed in firmware is kind of inexcusable. It's a bummer, but if they had fixed that, it would have been a bigger contender. This is much better for mixed use. Now the Nova 7X, it's almost the same sound quality. There's no extra clarity here. You're paying $50 more for the improved construction with the metal headband. It does give you simultaneous Bluetooth, and it does give you a passive 3.5 millimeter input. So if you need those specific features, go with the Nova 7. But because this has parametric EQ and they use the same exact driver inside, the Nova 5 is still a better headset, especially for console gaming. Now, people are still going to ask what the best overall headset is for first-person shooters and footstep awareness. I still think the Edge at $150 goes to the PlayStation Pulse Elite, but it's much more limited from a feature standpoint. Obviously, the mic and design and comfort are quite different. I think the Nova 5 has a much better overall balance of everything. It doesn't quite have the same clarity, but everything else to me is a little bit better on the Nova 5. So it's really up to you what you think is important. Are you going to turn into an esports shroud type player just by switching headsets? No, so keep that in mind. I think this is still going to keep you competitive. Now, Turtle Beach also has 2 new headsets coming out that at the time of this review are still under embargo. So I can't talk about how it compares to the latest stuff from Turtle Beach. Those will come in about a week from this video being filmed. So stay tuned for that. I will make comparisons. Compared to the older stuff, I think this is the better overall package, just like I thought the Nova 7 was a better overall package compared to the Stealth 700. That one has really good clarity. It's a little bit more clear than these, really punchy bass, but it lacks in most other areas compared to the Nova 7 and Nova 5. There was a weird behavior thing I noticed after using this for a couple weeks, and that's the way the headset switches over sources. So by default, let's say you're using the 2.4 connection and the headset is on, but you turn off your console or shut down your PC or unplug the dongle. After just a couple minutes of time, the headset switches over to Bluetooth because it's now saying, okay, that should be the active connection. If it does that, and then the next day you go to play on PlayStation or Xbox, for example, you're not going to hear any sound. You have to press the quick switch button to switch back, even if the headset's been turned off and turned back on. It basically resumes whatever your last source was prior to shutting off. So depending on what order you're shutting things down and how fast you turn this off, if you ever turn it on and you don't hear audio, just toggle that button and that should fix your problem. I did have a couple crashes on SteelSeries engine as well for customizing the headset. I have every headset manufacturer's software on that computer for testing stuff, but on my laptop, which is really just like my burner laptop, I wipe it all the time. It works no problem with engine. I had no issues customizing it, and that's how I built all the sound profiles before. I think honestly, this is one of the best headsets you can buy for the money right now. They improved the microphone from all of the prior Nova headsets. They still have the excellent comfort, the controls, which is beneficial for PC and Xbox where available. I mean, it's what people want from a gaming headset. And when you add in customizable full parametric EQ and you experience the power of that and what that can do for your audio experience, it's just a game-changing thing. I talked about a seismic shift earlier. There's nothing that touches that feature set for the money right now. It's mind-boggling how fast this technology is evolving. So huge kudos to SteelSeries. Now, I know people are going to be upset that have a Nova 7 or the Nova Pros, which are much more expensive headsets that don't get parametric EQ for console. You're going to feel shorted out. You can still get great performance with those. They have their own unique feature sets. The Pro has noise cancellation and all these other things to help with streaming and higher end performance. But you got to keep in mind, those came out 2 years ago and this technology wasn't really mainstream then. This is kind of an evolution of tech. So I think you're going to see a trickle down and trickle up effect. It was just timed that $130 option happened to have all of these features. With that being said, hopefully I helped make your decision a little bit easier. If you've been on the fence, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button because I'd love to see it the upcoming videos. And again, if you want to purchase one of these, I will have links in the description to help support the channel, or any other model I discussed that will be in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.